Every person you have ever met has been telling you exactly who they are. Not with their words. Not with what they say when they are trying to impress you, or explain themselves, or make you like them. With everything else. The way they react when plans change. The things they laugh at when they think no one is judging. How they treat someone who cannot do anything for them. What they talk about. When the conversation has no direction. What they avoid. What they repeat. What they reveal. Without realizing it. People are not mysteries. They are patterns. And patterns, once you know how to read them, become completely transparent. So before we go any further, think about someone in your life right now. Someone you cannot quite figure out. Someone whose behavior confuses you, surprises you, or quietly unsettles you. By the time this audiobook ends, you will understand them completely. And more importantly, you will understand yourself. Here is something that costs people more than they ever realize. The inability to read other people accurately. You hire someone who seemed perfect in the interview, and 3 months later you are wondering who this person actually is. You trust someone too quickly and pay for it slowly. You miss the early signals in a relationship that, looking back, were never actually hidden. You are surprised by betrayal that, in hindsight, was written in plain sight from the very beginning. Or maybe it is quieter than that. Maybe you just feel like you never quite understand what people really want. What they really mean. What is actually driving their behavior beneath the surface of what they say. And that gap, between what people present and who they actually are, creates confusion. Poor decisions, damaged relationships, and a persistent feeling that you are always slightly behind in every interaction. Here is the truth that psychology has known for decades but rarely gets translated into plain language. Human behavior is not random. It follows patterns. It is driven by needs, fears, habits, and emotional histories that express themselves in predictable, readable ways, if you know what to look for. You do not need a degree. You do not need years of clinical training. You need 5 frameworks. 5 ways of reading people that psychologists use every single day, and that you are about to learn right now. Chapter 1, Behavior is always communication. What people say versus what people do. There is a rule in psychology that changes everything once you understand it. Believe behavior. Not words. Words are conscious. Deliberate. Edited. People say what they want you to think. They say what they believe is expected. They say what makes them look good, feel safe, or avoid conflict. Behavior is different. Behavior is what leaks through when the performance slips. When someone is tired, or stressed, or comfortable enough to stop managing their impression. When the situation demands a response faster than the mind can calculate the right answer. Behavior is the truth that words were trying to cover. Think about someone who says they value honesty, but consistently softens or hides information when it is uncomfortable. Think about someone who says they respect your time, but is chronically late. Think about someone who says they are happy for you, but subtly undermines your confidence every time you make progress. The words and the behavior are not matching. And when behavior and words conflict, behavior is always telling the truth. The pattern rule. 1 behavior is a moment. 2 behaviors is a coincidence. 3 behaviors is a pattern. And patterns reveal character. This is one of the most important frameworks in all of applied psychology. People rarely show you who they are in a single interaction. They show you over time. Through repetition. Through the way they consistently handle pressure, conflict, disappointment, and temptation. Do not judge people by their best moments. Anyone can be generous, patient, and kind when life is easy. Watch how they behave when they are inconvenienced. When they do not get what they want. When someone below them in status or authority makes a mistake. When no one they are trying to impress is watching. Those moments, the unrehearsed, unguarded, low-stakes moments, are the most accurate data you will ever collect about another person. Reflection. Think about someone whose behavior has confused or hurt you. Now ignore everything they ever said. Look only at what they repeatedly did. What pattern emerges? What has their behavior been communicating all along, that their words were covering up? Chapter 2, The 5 Psychological Needs. Driving everyone. Why people do what they do. Every human behavior, no matter how confusing, irrational, or inexplicable it appears on the surface, is an attempt to meet a psychological need. This is one of the foundational insights of modern psychology. And once you start seeing behavior through this lens, people become dramatically easier to understand. There are 5 core needs that drive almost everything. The first is the need for security. The need to feel safe, stable, and in control of outcomes. People driven primarily by this need avoid risk, resist change, and can appear overly cautious or controlling. When this need is threatened, they become rigid, defensive, and sometimes aggressive. The second is the need for connection. The need to feel seen, valued, and loved by others. People driven by this need are highly relational, deeply affected by conflict, and will often sacrifice their own needs to maintain harmony. When this need is unmet, they become clingy, people-pleasing, or resentful. The third is the need for significance. The need to feel important, respected, and recognized. People driven primarily by this need seek status, compete for attention, and can appear arrogant or overly sensitive to criticism. When this need is threatened, they overcompensate with displays of achievement or put others down to elevate themselves. The fourth is the need for autonomy. The need to feel free, independent, and in control of their own choices. People driven by this need resist being told what to do, push back against authority, and value freedom above almost everything else. When this need is restricted, they rebel, withdraw, or become passive-aggressive. The fifth is the need for growth. The need to feel like they are improving, expanding, and moving forward. People driven primarily by this need are restless when stagnant, energized by challenges, and deeply uncomfortable with routine. When this need is ignored, they become depressed, restless, or self-destructive. Reading the need behind the behavior. Once you understand these 5 needs, behavior that seemed random becomes instantly readable. The colleague who constantly talks about their achievements is not simply arrogant. They have a significance need that is not being met, either at work or in their personal life. The friend who becomes distant when you spend time with other people is not simply insecure. They have a connection need that feels threatened. The partner who resists your suggestions and deflects your advice is not simply stubborn. They have an autonomy need that your approach is triggering. You stop taking behavior personally. You start understanding it structurally. And understanding it structurally gives you something valuable that judgment never could. The ability to respond effectively instead of reacting emotionally. Reflection. Think about the person in your life whose behavior frustrates you most. Now ask, which of the 5 needs is driving that behavior? And which of those needs is genuinely not being met? This question does not excuse harmful behavior. But it explains it. An explanation is the beginning of navigation. Chapter 3, The Body Never Lies, 9 to 12:30. What language cannot hide. Words are the most sophisticated tool human beings have ever developed for managing other people's perceptions. But the body has no such sophistication. The body responds automatically, unconsciously, in real time, to emotion, to threat, to comfort, to desire, to deception. And while the mind constructs the story it wants you to believe, the body is quietly broadcasting something entirely different. Learning to read that broadcast is one of the most powerful skills you will ever develop. The core signals. There are 4 categories of nonverbal communication that reveal psychological truth more reliably than almost anything else. Microexpressions. These are involuntary facial expressions that flash across a person's face. In a fraction of a second, often before the conscious mind has had time to compose the intended expression. A flicker of contempt. A flash of fear. A split-second look of disgust that disappears almost instantly. Most people miss them entirely. But once you train yourself to watch for them, they become impossible to unsee. Body orientation. Where a person's body points tells you where their mind wants to be. When someone is genuinely engaged, their entire body turns toward you, shoulders, feet, chest all pointing in your direction. When they want to leave, their feet and lower body begin turning toward the exit even while their face maintains eye contact and their words say they are fine. The feet are one of the least controlled parts of the body in conversation, and therefore one of the most honest. Touch and self-soothing. When people are anxious, uncomfortable, or deceptive, they unconsciously touch themselves. They rub their neck. Cover their mouth briefly. Touch their face. Adjust their clothing unnecessarily. These are self-soothing behaviors, the body trying to calm the nervous system in response to internal stress. When you see clusters of these behaviors, not one isolated gesture, but several together, something is happening beneath the surface. Incongruence. This is perhaps the most powerful signal of all. Incongruence is when the body and the words tell different stories. Someone says they are excited while their body is completely still and closed. Someone says they agree while subtly shaking their head. Someone smiles while their eyes remain flat and unaffected. The brain processes the words. The gut notices the incongruence. And that feeling you sometimes get, that something is slightly off even though you cannot explain why, that is your unconscious mind reading the incongruence that your conscious mind has not yet named. Reflection. Think about the last conversation where something felt slightly off, where you walked away with a nagging sense that what was said and what was real were not quite the same. What were you actually picking up on? Now that you have the language, what was the body communicating that the words were trying to cover? Chapter 4: How People Reveal Themselves in Conversation. The psychology of what people talk about. Every conversation is a psychological self-portrait. Not in what people say about themselves directly, those are the edited highlights, the managed narrative, the version they want you to believe. In the patterns of what they return to. What they cannot help bringing up. What topics light them up and which ones make them go flat. Who they talk about and how. What they complain about consistently. What they are always subtly seeking from the people they talk to. These patterns are not random. They are the fingerprints of a person's interior world. The person who consistently brings every conversation back to their own achievements is telling you exactly what their inner life is organized around, the constant need to establish their value in the eyes of others. The person who always has a story about how they were wronged by their last employer, their last partner, their family, the world, is revealing a belief system that casts them as a permanent victim of external forces. And that belief system will eventually find a way to cast you in the same story. The person who asks you genuine questions and listens to the answers with real curiosity. Who remembers what you said last time and follows up, is showing you something rare and enormously valuable. Real interest. The absence of hidden agenda. A person whose attention is not always calculating what they can extract from the interaction. The question method. Psychologists use a specific technique to understand people quickly and accurately. They ask open questions and then listen to what the person chooses to emphasize. Not the factual content of the answer, but the emotional content. The words that carry weight. The details they linger on. The things they skip over quickly versus the things they return to with extra energy. Ask someone to describe their last job and listen to whether they talk mostly about the work, the people, the conflict, or their own contribution. Each emphasis reveals a different psychology. Ask someone what they are most proud of and listen to whether they describe an achievement, a relationship, a moment of integrity, or a time they helped someone. The answer tells you what they value at their core, not what they say they value, but what actually lives at the center of their sense of self. People are always answering a deeper question than the one you asked. Your job is simply to listen for it. Reflection. Think about the last long conversation you had with someone important in your life. What did they keep coming back to? What emotional thread ran through everything they talked about? What were they actually asking for, beneath the surface of the words? Chapter 5, Know Yourself to Know Everyone Else. The mirror you cannot avoid. Here is the most confronting truth in all of applied psychology. The accuracy of your ability to read other people is directly limited by your willingness to read yourself. Because the biases, blind spots, and emotional triggers that distort your perception of yourself distort your perception of everyone else too. If you have unresolved anger toward a parent who was controlling, you will see control and manipulation in people who are simply direct. If you have deep fear of abandonment, you will interpret distance as rejection even when it is simply space. If your own need for significance is unmet, you will misread confidence in others as arrogance. You are not seeing people clearly. You are seeing them through the filter of your own unexamined interior life. This is why self-awareness is not a soft skill. It is the foundational skill. The skill that makes every other skill in this audiobook actually work. The practice of honest self-study. Real self-awareness is not comfortable. It is not the kind of reflection that confirms what you already believe about yourself. It is the kind that catches you in the moment of reaction, and asks the harder question. Why did that bother me so much? What does my response to this person say about me, not about them? Where have I seen this pattern in myself before? The person who can ask those questions honestly, and sit with the answers without immediately defending themselves, becomes genuinely difficult to manipulate, genuinely accurate in their reading of others, and genuinely free from the reactive patterns that most people spend their entire lives trapped inside. Know yourself. And everyone else becomes readable. Action Plan. Your 5 frameworks, starting today. Framework 1, Believe behavior, not words. For the next 30 days, make a conscious practice of watching what people do rather than what they say. When behavior and words conflict, trust the behavior. Every single time. Write down the patterns you notice. They will tell you more in 30 days than years of conversation ever did. Framework 2, Find the need behind the behavior. When someone's behavior frustrates or confuses you, stop and ask which of the 5 needs is driving it. Security, connection, significance, autonomy, growth. Find the need. Understand the behavior. Respond to what is actually happening instead of what appears to Be happening. Framework 3, watch the body in clusters. Do not read single gestures in isolation. Read clusters. 1 nervous behavior means nothing. 3 nervous behaviors in the same conversation means something is happening beneath the surface. Train yourself to watch feet, micro-expressions, self-soothing, and incongruence. Especially in high-stakes conversations. Framework 4, listen to the pattern of conversation. In your next meaningful conversation, listen not just to what is said but to what keeps being said. What does this person always return to? What do they seek from every interaction? What emotional thread runs through everything they talk about? The answer is a direct window into their psychology. Framework 5, turn the lens on yourself first. Before you analyze anyone, analyze your reaction to them. Ask what your emotional response is telling you about yourself. Identify your own needs, fears, and patterns. Because the cleaner your self-knowledge, the more accurate your reading of everyone else becomes. The final truth. The most powerful person in any room is not the loudest. Not the most charismatic. Not the one with the most authority or the most status. It is the one who truly understands what is happening. Who reads beneath the surface. Who sees the need behind the behavior. Who notices what the body is saying when the words are saying something else. Who listens for the pattern beneath the conversation. That person makes better decisions. Builds deeper trust. Avoids costly mistakes. And moves through every relationship, personal and professional, with a clarity and confidence that most people spend their whole lives searching for. That person can be you. Not through manipulation. Not through using what you know to gain power over people. But through genuine understanding. The kind that makes people feel seen. The kind that builds real trust. The kind that turns every human interaction, no matter how complex, into something you can navigate with confidence, compassion, and complete clarity. Start today. The people around you have already been telling you everything. It is time to finally start listening.